Hey. Welcome to Young and Professional, where we talk about careers, the path going to there, the path leading away, the path of meshing two things as one, whatever it may be, just careers basically. And today we're talking about a bio that turned into a physio. So I don't understand this because one of the greatest professional rivalries is the endless war between physios and bios. But then again, I feel like physios also have a thing with chiros. So like, I don't know who's the issue. So today we're joined by a dual practitioner, a biophysio, I would like to call him. Welcome, Melt Layton. So I'm gonna go straight into it because I do not understand how can a bio be a physio? Like we don't even like each other. So be honest, which interest came first, physio or bio, and which is more fun, bio or physio?
To be honest, neither bio or physio came first. I first started a degree in BSc in chemistry and polymer science. And then after the first 3 months, I realized I would never be able to get stuck in a lab. So then I went over to study biokinetics and then eventually physio. So at this stage, I would have to say combining the two is my favorite. Obviously, that's the easy way out. But there are aspects of both professions that I really do enjoy, and we'll get into that a bit later.
Okay, so I know lab work at varsity was like fun, but super hard. Like the first year, we just did like silly like lab stuff, drawings. I couldn't. I asked people to draw for me. I don't know, but like I know you as a physio, and before physio, you did bio, and then now I just found out now that you did this aspect of the lab aspect. What was the journey to bio, and why did you feel you needed to add physio to that journey?
My journey to biokinetics was, as I alluded to in the first section, something also a bit different. After I decided that life in a lab is not for me, then I decided to revisit all my options and go back to one of my first loves, which is sport and movement, and yeah, how all of that just fits together. So then I went over to start my BSc degree in sports science, and then after that, doing the honors in biokinetics. So yeah, it was a bit of a journey that came organically. I followed what I loved, and yeah, then made a career out of it. Um, and then in terms of why I felt like I needed to add physio to it, I really enjoyed my 3 years practicing as a bio before I considered studying physio again. It was around about COVID time in 2020 when all the commercial gyms were closed at that time. So then I just realized I would have to um, add another string to my bow, and yeah, make sure that I can differentiate myself from all the other biokineticists, also trying just as hard to make ends meet, and yeah, just be I suppose better than the next person. um, and then yeah, that took me on the journey of looking at different courses, what is out there, what is available, and then yeah, I just by chance came across Stellenbosch University's website, where they advertised they've had another 4 days left of applications for physiotherapy. And then it was conversations with my nearest and dearest, and also looking into what are the differences between biokineticists and physios. And yeah, that's how physio came across my path. I then decided to throw my name in the hat, take a chance, a very slim chance that I would get in. And then after that, I got invited for an interview. Seeing as I already had a degree and studied previously, they invited me for an interview to see why should they give this guy a chance. The interview went well, and then yet again I put decision making off. I said, okay, the interview went well now, but if I do manage to get in, then I'll make this big life decision to return to life as a student. And then lo and behold, I got the letter to say that I got accepted. And at that point, I discussed with my parents as well. and said we can't ignore the signs. We asked for all the signs, and we put trust in this process. And yeah, then I decided to give the studying career another go, and we turned our attention to physiotherapy. I continued with my working as a bio part time while I was studying, and I really enjoyed that work-life study balance, to not get too stuck in one position, either being in clinically in the hospital or behind my laptop studying. It was lots of fun to go out and see my clients in between, to have that bit of distraction from the stress that is being a student.
Nice. One thing I'll definitely say and agree with is turning what you already love into a career, making your passion your career. It really makes it easier to build into like onto your resume. But also, I mean, making that coin becomes a lot easier because I mean it's fun. And so yeah. Um, so what are the favorite aspects of each discipline as a dual practitioner, would you say?
Um, yeah, that's a very good question. It's quite difficult to um, discern between what is my favorite as a bio and favorite as a physio. Currently, as a dual practitioner, I really make an effort to not let the two professions or the two disciplines overlap too much. We're very privileged here where I work. We have a team of biokineticists and a team of physios. So if I do see a patient as a physio, I do not continue with them in as a biokineticist, and vice versa as well. If I have helped them with some biokinetics work, I do not treat them as a physio either. So yeah, that's just one way of sort of keeping the two separate as a dual practitioner. But yeah, in terms of biokinetics, I really, really do enjoy um, the rewarding bit, which is seeing the elation and the excitement on patients' faces when you are able to tell them, yes, we are ready to return to
Nice.
sport, or when they weren't able to do certain exercise and movements,
Mm,
or even if it's just the endurance that increases. So that is a very, very rewarding part, and you can get super creative, especially in
mm,
biokinetics with all the different exercises, but also in physio. One thing I have learned is there's no one way to go about things.
mm.
So even with a hands-on treatment as a physio, there are many ways to skin a cat, as they would say, and I really enjoy that part of treatment where you see a problem, and for one patient the one treatment might be the correct thing, and for another patient you'll have to
Totally
try
different.
a different avenue.
Mm.
So I think I enjoy the creativity in that aspect, as well as the puzzles that comes with anytime you're working with humans or patients, I suppose. It's never just a straightforward plugging into a computer and saying exactly what's wrong. It's all about figuring out those puzzles, and then also laying out the map as to how are we going to get to the end goal, which is obviously to then return to sport, or
Mm.
to return to the activities they love, pain-free, happy, and yeah, that's the way I feel we can contribute, and that's what I enjoy most about these two two different, well, two different yet related careers.
Mm. That is so cool. I actually never thought that I could. I mean, one would have to stick to like the one profession throughout a profession. I thought like, okay, maybe today I'm your physio, woohoo, and then the next day I'm like your bio. But that's so interesting. Thank you for clarifying that. And I just do want to say, physios are actually very creative. We are creative people in our own special way. We might not be like as creative as OTs, but no, definitely we are creative. I promise you, we are. We are. We are. So in South Africa, can one be a dual practitioner? So then, because now you're saying that you have to declare and practice as one or the other, are you actually allowed to be a dual practitioner?
So currently, you are able to be a dual registered practitioner. So if you have a qualification in biokinetics and you have a qualification in physiotherapy, you are able to practice as both, but you have to disclose before you see a patient then in which capacity you're seeing them, and you also can't operate, in my understanding, you can't operate out of the same practice, the same room as a physio and a bio, but you can definitely be dual registered and see different clients or their patients in that capacity. So you are not forced to choose one, but you can't practice at both at the same time with the same patient. In my understanding of how the HPCSA has put it all out.
So talking of the HPCSA, please look into dear HPCSA, should I rather say, please look into talking to the big guns and like looking at the rates of physios, guys. Physios do so much. We are in every like nook and corner. We do everything from acute care to rehab to long-term quality of life, like maintenance. We are there. Can we please look into loving our physios a little bit more? Like, honestly, please, please, please. So I'm gonna ask you, what subjects did you take late high school to to allow you to follow the degree that you went into and have the prerequisites that you would need to be a bio?
In terms of making decisions regarding subjects and those kind of things, so I did English as a home language, Afrikaans, and then maths at a higher grade, and then I chose biology or life sciences, physical sciences, as well as accounting. So for me, that was more about keeping my options open at that stage. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do between grade 9 and grade 10. So those were ones that I felt would keep my options nice and open. But yeah, those are the type of subjects that you do need. You can have a look on universities' websites in terms of exactly what each university's requirement is. Each program has a bit of a different requirement for what exactly you need to do. I also know the biokinetics degrees have mostly changed from a 3-year degree in sports science and then honors in biokinetics, changed to a 4-year degree of biokinetics. So it does look a little bit different from when I studied back then. But yes, because I did things a bit differently, the biokinetics degree did play a part in me qualifying for physio. But like I alluded to earlier, I still had to go through an interview process, and they had to accept me on those grounds because I had that extra qualification. So it didn't just go on my school marks then to get into physio. I fell into a special category because I already had a previous degree and previous work experience. I fell into a specific category of places where they take people in a specific intake, if I can phrase it that way, to qualify for physio. Whereas people coming straight out of school, they are also based on a similar criteria and in their school marks.
Okay. So I just want to say, first of all, we spoke about this on our season 1 with a different physio who's at private practice, Zainab. That physios that actually went through the interview process are actually the best physios out there, because that's when you get to suss out the heart. Like, you need to have a heart for physio to be a great physiotherapist. And I think the interview process does a lot in selecting the right physiotherapist in the world out there. And I think definitely, yes, a typical safe line to take that most of us took, even though we weren't aware of what we wanted to do, was the life science, physics, and core maths package, and then obviously your languages and whatever else. But yeah, that's quite interesting that a lot of us had that in common. So, another question for you is, what are your favorite parts of bio and what are your favorite parts of physiotherapy?
Sure, choosing the favorite parts of being a bio and a physio, that's a tricky one. But yeah, I think if we start with biokinetics, I think, like I alluded to earlier, you can get very, very, very creative. So the same exercise you use for an 18-year-old can be just as effective for a 90-year-old, but you might just have to adapt it a little bit. So I think there's just such a wide range of skills and tools you can use to get the human body to move. And yeah, I think that's one of the great things, that no one session has to be the same. You can have the same outcomes to get to your own end goal, but you don't have to do the same repetitive, boring movements over and over to get there. And I think that's something that biokinetics have taught me, is that rehab can be one of the scary, more boring parts for especially a sportsman. But you can make it interesting and you can make it fun while the patient or the athlete is already going through that mental struggle of not being able to compete as they would like, because that is also a very big part of our journey, whether you're practicing as a physio or a bio. A very big part of our journey is helping people coping with that injury, and also then returning to their activities, either of daily living or then getting back to the sports field. And I think the favorite part of being a physio, favorite parts of physio, I think there's a lot of immediate gratification almost. A patient can walk in with lots of pain, and then there's certain tricks of the trade that you can initially do to just relieve that pain. And I think that's really, really, really rewarding. Even though that doesn't always solve the problem, it gives that immediate pain relief for a patient, which is amazing. So definitely those hands-on techniques is something I really enjoy about physio. Just the value you can add and how you can make that patient's day and comfort a lot better within one session, whilst you are then working on what the cause of that issue is or getting closer to the root of the problem. So yeah, I think those are, in brief summary, the two favorite parts of being a bio and a physio.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask you, obviously, what are the hardest parts of being a bio? And then, obviously, what are the hardest parts of being a physio?
Sure. The hardest parts, I think there are quite a few, and in both professions, and I think it all depends on who you're working with and who is sitting in front of you on that day. But I think there's a lot of hardships for patients that we see, whether it being pain or how they ended up with us, or just what they are missing out on because they are going through some form of rehab, or whether they're being in hospital, or whatever their journey is looking like. So I think as a biokineticist, I think one of the difficult parts are, because we are so involved with return to play, and that's sort of what we would call in layman's terms final phase rehab. I think there's a lot of timelines and holding back that we try and make the decisions with the patients and their family, especially if it is younger athletes. But it is something that you really, really do need to get the buy-in from the athlete and their family. And sometimes those are difficult conversations to say, why aren't we competing in sport yet? Because I feel, well, I can do this, I can do that. And then with the data and the experience we have, we then need to bring what they are feeling together with what clinical research is saying, the evidence-based practice we always talk about, and then try and explain to them, this is why we can't return to sports yet, because you are not ready for X, Y, and Z, and this is what can happen if you do return too early, and what the repercussions can be. So I think those are some of the really, really hard conversations to have. And I think as a buyer, you probably have quite a few of those, seeing as it is so close to return to sport. But it doesn't mean that you as a physio aren't having hard conversations, especially with the acute phase of injuries and the initial phase where we see patients as physios. I think there's also a lot of education that needs to be done then, which is something I really, really do enjoy. Trying to guide the patients to understanding what they are in for and what the method is behind our madness and what we are doing. But I do think a difficult part of physio is that sometimes there is not much we can do, and then that is the point where we need to then refer the patient onto a doctor or for surgery. And those are hard things for patients to understand, that it's not just going to be a quick fix. It might be a longer journey. Or as physios, when we do see patients in hospital, there can also be different settings where we see them in ICU, or maybe even in a setting where they're just for palliative care. And I think those are some of the hardest parts, where you sort of feel helpless. There's not much you can do to assist apart from guiding them in terms of going the right direction, in terms of if they have to be referred to a doctor, or making them comfortable if it is end-of-life care. So yeah, even though there are lots of rewarding parts of the jobs, I would say those are some of the more difficult and hardest parts of the two professions.
Definitely, I hear you. So currently, okay, let's fill in the blank. Currently, I am practicing as a blank, and my pit and peak of the week has been blank.
So currently I'm practicing mostly as a physio. We focus on sports and orthopedics mainly, but we see anybody who is coming to our practice and seeking help. And I do help out as a biokineticist if our bio schedule is a too full. But
Nice.
mainly I do practice as a physio. So yeah, the peak of my week is generally when I get to discharge patients, or when I get that WhatsApp saying that the 21 they ran over the weekend felt amazing, they had no pain.
Nice.
That is really, really good. But just so the same thing can be the opposite as well. The bit of the week is when a patient that you have been struggling to make progress with is walking in, and either they are just not quite there yet, not pain-free, and you really, really don't know which way to turn anymore. But luckily, I've got wonderful colleagues then that I can bounce ideas of, and
Nice.
everybody's always got a different outlook on things to then try different techniques or different approaches to what the patient is struggling with. Or another bit, I suppose, would be when you had a very systematic return to run for a patient, and then you just get the WhatsApp to say they have done 3 times the distance that you suggested or the time you suggested they're running, and now, lo and behold, the hamstring is sore again. So those things are tough, but you live and you learn and you grow with the patient, maybe trying different ways of conveying how serious a return to run program is, and then, try and turn that bit into a positive.
Nice. So, where can I find you to help you with any sports injuries that I may have?
So I'm currently working at an outpatient-based practice here in Honeydew at the NHC. We mainly focus, like I said earlier, on sports and orthopedic type injuries, but we deal with a wide variety of conditions of some cardiorespiratory and chest physio if needed, as well as then the running injuries, a lot of post-operative care. Really anything that walks through the doors, but those are mainly the patients that we see, that we try our best to help with and assist where we can.
Nice. So, on a lighter note, so at Barra, I know you're at Barra. What was your favorite rotation at Barra?
Sure. What a tricky one, hey? Trying to set me up for asking what the favorite section in Barra was, hey?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed my time at Baragwanath. It was really such a special time of growing and learning, and just uprooting my whole life from the Western Cape, coming to Joburg. So that was really, really something special to then walk into a place like Baragwanath where you had the opportunity to make a difference, on the daily, and people being so appreciative of what you do. Sure. So I had 5 different rotations or 5 different teams I was part of, and everything. I know this is the vanilla answer. Everything really offered something different. I was in some teams where we really just had brilliant teamwork. Some things that come to mind is the Nero rotation I was in, where we would literally walk from ward to ward, finish each other's wards, helping to make sure all the patients are seen, especially on the days when we were short-staffed, or just really struggling to get through a patient load, or even just having a heavy patient to lift. And then the ortho team, we really had some interesting cases and amazing teamwork, great camaraderie, and just had the most fun topics of discussion, learning, and challenging each other, and also querying each other, and just making sure we are all either on the same page or we agree to disagree.
Nice, yeah.
And then the outpatient department, really enjoyed that for how we got to see patients from where they come with pains that they've had for years, or post-operative care that they need further assistance with. And some days it was just turmoil, but we really had a very strong captain of the ship there that just guided us through it, and was always such a nice learning environment of being open to discuss cases or bounce ideas off of. Then, of course, one of my favorite wards to work in is very controversial. I really, really enjoyed ABU. So my time in the burns and surgical unit was really, really special for what I experienced and what we got to contribute to the burns unit of Baragwanath. So really enjoyed that part. And then, of course, trauma surgery was really, really hectic at days. Some days where you have to see 40 patients between 1 or 2 physios, but also really just everybody picking each other up and making sure that we are ready to get through another days of work, and making sure all the patients are getting the best possible care that we could give them with what we had available. So yeah, I think to summarize, Barrow was just really special for its people, more so than the physical building and the patients we saw, the physios I worked with, and those were the special things that I would remember from Barra, more so than just a specific ward or a specific.
Nice. Okay, so one last sort of serious question. If you had a water gun to your head and you were forced to choose bio or physio, which one would it be?
Luckily, I'm not scared of a bit of water. If that gun was threatening me, I would say at this stage physio. Probably just because I didn't study 4 more years just to go back to being a bio. Because I really, really did enjoy practicing as a biokineticist. As I alluded to earlier, for me, it was more of how I can grow myself, and then physiotherapy came across my path. So I've never had anything against the biokinetics profession. And yeah, for that very same reason, I still really do enjoy incorporating that in physio. Because I do think there's a lot of crossover, obviously, between the two professions. And yeah, so this stage I would choose physiotherapy just based mainly for the way I can incorporate both the hands-on techniques and then also some of the rehab and some of the exercises that I've learned as a bio. Because yeah, as biokineticists, you focus a lot on biomechanics and movement patterns and those things, which is really, really important for us taking part in activities and running and sports. But it is just as important in the end phase as it is initially. So as physios, I feel like we can do a lot more work to kickstart that process of biomechanics. But for that, you need to understand what the end goal and the end process is looking like. So yeah, I think that is one of my favorite things about sort of combining physio and bio without crossing any boundaries.
Nice. See, I keep telling you guys, physios are the best thing since sliced cake. I promise you. Start going to physios for like back pain and a lot of other stuff, guys. Just research what you can go to physios for versus a doctor to give you pills. I promise you, it will change your life. Physios are the best thing since sliced cake. Thank you so much, Mel. So, last question before I let you go. Thank you so very much. Top 5 of your current week's car playlist this week was?
Sure. So yeah, this week was quite a hype week. So for this week, for my top 5 songs that I've listened to in the car, every morning I felt like I just needed a little bit of that extra pick me up. So it was Eminem week, of course.
Nice.
So for my top 5, if I'm looking at my Spotify, would be Stan, Bad Guy, A Rose, Beautiful, and Not Afraid, all from Eminem.
Nice.
And then closely after those 5 would be Rap God. Yeah, so it's all Eminem this week, and I look forward to switching that back on again on my way home now.
Nice. Thank you so very much, Melt. And I mean, Eminem is one of the rappers that I actually was introduced to. Eminem, my mother introduced me to Eminem, and love his whole catalog, old, new, in the middle, all of it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Before we buy out this week, I just want to say, as we approach winter, here are a quick tips to avoid burns injury. So first and foremost, when you are preparing a bath, please start with cold water, and then when you are ready and around, especially there's toddlers, add the hot water, and then it will get lukewarm versus you starting with hot water and then like making it warm, and then if an accident happens, it's already still hot. Number 2, when preparing when preparing all elements of bathing, putting a towel, putting the clothes out, getting the Vaseline, whatever it may be, start with that before just putting hot water on the bucket or in the issue on the floor, to also avoid a toddler running around and falling in. Number 3, do not leave any hanging items or a cloth or anything on a table that has a kettle, pots, hot, whatever that may be, hot oil, whatever, dangling around for a toddler to pull down to have like a splash. burn injury. Number 4, no sitting on buckets at all. Even if the bucket is cold, they must just not even get used to sitting on buckets, because one day it'll be a bucket with hot water and then they'll dip in and then their poor bums and thighs will get burnt because they'll get stuck in that bucket as well. And then last, number 5, please educate and ban kids from matches, especially that age group of 7 years upwards. For boys especially, they are experimenting and whatever, but please have a serious talks with them and educate them and ban them from matches, to keep away from like flame burns that are ridiculous incidents. Thank you so very much. Enjoy the rest of the week and remember to do what you love and love what you do. Yay! Okie dokie. Thanks so much, guys.